A man's story about his father often carries a lot of pain and grief. And we do know that we are a generation that never had the rites of passage. And the father's role was to, in a way, prepare the son for the rites, for the process. And it was never to initiate him, but to be guidance, to be the food that the son eats in a form of wisdom, experience, watching his father do life. And through this, we lost that sense of what it actually means to be a man. Now, either your father wasn't present, or he was around but he wasn't ideal or emotionally intelligent, or he didn't have skills or knowledge how to do this job. And it's absolutely valid, because in those times when we were young kids and our father's generation was doing what we are doing now, living life and having responsibilities and doing work and trying to be the provider and do all those different things, there was a big shift that we are also experiencing in today's world, where we are moving from this world that used to be. Now, it was a very common that a father would go and work somewhere all day, and then he would come home and maybe have something for you, maybe not, in a sense of presence or teaching or patience. And even though that father, those men at that age were, trying their best, they were also haunted by their own shadow, by their own unknownness, how to carry the weight that was just growing bigger and bigger. The stress, working, the maybe unstable or unhealthy relationship with the mother, with the wife. So the whole circle of this was that the son would often be left alone to lean on mother all the time, or to figure out his own way. Now, in today's world, a lot of men are trying to be more present, trying to heal their wounds, trying to, change the story that their father lived. And oftentimes they end up becoming just like their fathers, and especially the carrying the side or living the side of their father that they don't want to, that they despise, or that they hold, resentment towards. And I myself have for a very long time held resentment, anger, a lot of fear and frustration with my father, because I saw my father as someone who is out of integrity, who is not leading his family effectively, or who's just, bending down to everything without actually thinking critically and preparing for the future. And for me, those were some specifics, but they also reflected who I was and what I was missing in my life, and where I had to grow, and what I had to do to actually, be the man that I needed when I was younger. Now, my healing and my change of perspective towards my father didn't change until I became a father. And now I'm not talking about the moment when my daughter and son were born, or the process that happened after, when they are here, when they are integrated into our life. But I'm talking about when I found out that I was gonna be a father for the first time, and it was that pregnancy process. And in those months, I started to think a lot about death of my father. And there's this saying that, a man doesn't become a man until his father died. And that is so true, because I myself watched my grandfather die and how it affected my father, who changed completely. Now, I didn't remember that for a very long period of my life, or I didn't understand it as well. But now, when I'm a father, when I experienced a lot of life, and when I experienced crises, stresses, what it means to provide and have responsibility for someone else, I have the depth where I can actually receive the blessing of those moments. And as I've been thinking about the death of my father, knowing that this will change me completely, it's very interesting that I started to think about it just as I was about to become a father. And I do see that as the archetypal transition or archetypal integration into fatherhood. So it's the father archetype integrating within me, and my own relationship with my father had to change. I had to individuate from him. I had to find peace and forgiveness and understanding for my father and let it go. And I couldn't do that until I experienced how it is to walk in my father's shoes. Now, I am not talking about the job he did or the things that he did in everyday life, like his routine or the movies that he watched or anything like that. I'm talking about the responsibility, the crisis, the pressure, the weight that you have to carry, that you are, first of all, blessed to carry, and you should be grateful for, but also that weight is changing you, is teaching you something, is bringing out of you the things that you never knew it would. And when my second child came, that changed for me completely, because I could see my father and he could see me. And every moment when I was a kid came right in front of my eyes in this day and age, where it came in a flashback of a scene where I would look at my father in the eyes and he would look at me back, and he would just see all the bullshit behind it. He would see all the masks that I have. He would see all the lies, all the fake and performative things that I did just for the sake of, I don't know, being comfortable, being okay, being not judged, not to carry any responsibility or experience consequence for my actions. And yeah, he had my back in those tricky times. But the sense of grief and the sense of sadness that would wake within me when my father would look at me like that, and I could see that he's feeling a bit disappointed and he's feeling pain, and I just couldn't understand why, and I would judge him because of that. I would see him as something is wrong with him, but I was the one making him feel like that. I was the one also not giving him a chance and holding on to the resentment, anger, and all of those different emotions towards him, just so I can stay in that comfortable state. And now, after I experienced what it means to be a father, and after, even before trying to figure out what I have to do, fix with my father, how to improve my relationship with him, how to heal that, none of it worked until I actually experienced what it means to be a father. And right now, those things, this resentment, all of those, different emotions just faded out. Why? Because not that I only was thinking about death of my father and experiencing that in my inner world. But I was also, yes, experiencing fatherhood myself, as now me being a father to my son and my daughter. I also allowed myself to enter the process of grief. And grief is something that many men today are afraid, that they think is a weakness, but it's a process of allowing your old self, the childish self, to be let go completely so you can integrate and bring to life the more mature version of yourself. And that often looks like, letting go of the things that you are holding on to, that are dear to you. And it's funny because those things can come oftentimes through crisis, like break of relationship, or the loss of a job, or financial crisis. But when it comes specifically to your father, there is a grief of grieving the father you never had and grieving the father you had. So it's like a intertwined grief process where you have to allow yourself to let go, to say the truth and let go, and then accept the new reality, which is so freaking hard because we like to hold on to those imaginary ideal worlds that we create, which are oftentimes not in the service of us, of our evolution as men. And as I grieved my father, who, by the way, is still alive, is still here, he is a beautiful grandfather, and our relationship is only growing and growing stronger and better and more open, but as I grieved him, many opportunities opened up for me where I could have conversations with him, where I could express some things, and he would share his experience through either just letting me know that he understands, that he knows that he's been there, or telling me a story. For example, when it comes to money, how he had to wear pants that were having holes on them because he couldn't buy himself new ones because he had to buy diapers for us. So he would then get a gift on his birthday from his own mom, my grandmother. It was a specifically gift in form of money so he could buy himself new pants, but he didn't. He bought us diapers. And he was referencing and explaining that to me, like, look, son, right now you have on yourself the pants that have a little hole down there. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not priority right now. Priority is to provide for my family and to give to them. And he's just like, I know. Others don't know. Others don't understand, but I know. And just receiving those little wisdom nuggets and gifts through where I see that he understands or that he knows is actually opening my eyes and helping me have more understanding for him. And after a few of those experiences, all of the judgment was gone, because right now he's just a man as I am, and I am just a man as he is. I'm not more conscious, or I'm not more experienced or aware. I might have some knowledge and experience that is valuable, but he also has it. And this is very often a trap in today's, world, where with the pop psychology and therapy, where we try to blame our parents for everything, and we bring more resentment, more hatred, more avoidance into those relationships instead of looking for repair. And repair doesn't look comfortable. Repair is bringing forth what's within you, the hard, dark, ugly truth that you are not willing to accept, and allowing yourself to experience life so you can actually have the weight behind your ideas, behind your values, and behind everything that you believe in. Because without that, it's too thin, and it's not teaching you anything. So you have to have something thick that can actually make you experience the food that your own family has for you, that your own father has for you as you are his son, and as you will have for your own son. And we neglect that important piece very often in today's world, and it's so important. It's so important to give our sons that food through wisdom, through allowing them to watch us in the process of how we deal with the failure, with the emotions, with the anger, how we seek repair with our wife, or how we relate to our body or the work that we do. Everything is so important, and we as men, as fathers, are the first ones that our sons will look upon to and will try to module. And when they will try to module us, we will even then have such another deep layer of meeting our own selves, because we will experience the mirror through them. So yes, it does take a little bit of work. It does take the awareness and the attention that we have to pour into those things. But all of that is worthy, and it's worthy. It's the most worthiest thing in the world, in life. That is why the family is the real wealth. The family is the natural purpose of a man and a woman. And through being family-centric, or rather, as I would like to say it, and as I like to call it, is being present father, cultivating that with our children can make them so strong and healthy and ready for life in the world that is around us. And trust me, it's, as you know yourself, it's not easy in today's world. And so many are afraid of having kids and how it's gonna be to leave the kids in this world and bring them into this world, and they're gonna only focus on their own healing until they're all conscious enough, and I don't know, they're flying on their up in the air, meditating or whatever. Like, that's not the way. Yes, experiencing awakening, raising consciousness can bring you up, can make you feel high, but your goal is to bring it back down through the practical experience and through interaction with the real world, and actually doing the work in there, not just with your mind and thoughts and feelings, but in the interactions, in taking action, in detecting and sensing what is coming up in you, and learning how to navigate it and where to direct it. Because when you have that skill, and I like to call that skill, like when you are able to regulate as a male, as your system is designed to regulate, then you can really build up that capacity to experience more of life, where you are not actually, being sensible to everything, but you're actually solid, and you know when you need to lean into more gentle side, and when you can lean more into your stronger and tougher side. And both are good, both are needed and necessary, but you can now have the capacity to tap into both of them. And that capacity can be built with the right skills and practices. But the main point is that even though you might have not had the father that you wanted to, or that you desired, or you might not have him now in this idea of what a father should be, you have to seek that forgiveness within him, within yourself, for him, and understanding for him, not for the sake of just like, you're gonna get away with this, I'm fine, you can just continue doing that or whatever, but where you can really, feel it, and that he did the best that he could. And yeah, there are some fathers that are actually shit. But for those fathers like that, it's also necessary to experience grief and to find peace and understanding within yourself, to individuate from him, to separate from him, and to move forward and be the leader that your family needs you to be.